We now move on to the next step, which is the first real action step of the recovery program. Step 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. On page 63, the Big Book authors tell us what we need to do now that we have made a decision to proceed.
Next, we launched out on a course of vigorous action, the first step of which is a personal housecleaning, which many of us had never attempted. Though our decision was a vital and crucial step, it could have little permanent effect unless at once followed by a strenuous effort to face, and to be rid of, the things in ourselves which had been blocking us.
Please note that the authors say at once. They tell us we need to take the fourth step immediately after we have completed the third step. We have to get rid of those things that have been blocking us off from our higher power, or else our initial contact with our Creator won't last. So now, we are going to establish a direct line of communication with our higher power by eliminating those aspects of our personalities that have kept us in the dark. The Big Book authors say that the booze is but a symptom. Sure, alcohol has cut us off from our higher power, but once we stop drinking, we are still separated from him because of our character liabilities. Now it's time to look at those character defects and shortcomings by making a fearless moral inventory of ourselves. The authors start by making a comparison between a personal and a business inventory. On page 64 they write,
Therefore, we started upon a personal inventory. This was step 4. A business which takes no regular inventory usually goes broke. Taking a commercial inventory is fact-finding and a fact-facing process. It is an effort to discover the truth about the stock in trade. One object is to disclose damaged or unsaleable goods, to get rid of them promptly and without regret.
Then the authors tell us exactly what we have to do on page 64 in order to conduct a fourth-step inventory.
We did exactly the same thing with our lives. We took stock honestly. First, we searched out the flaws in our makeup which caused our failure. Being convinced that self, manifested in various ways, was what had defeated us, we considered its common manifestations.
The Big Book tells us to take the steps quickly. We must discover the truth about our stock in trade in order to remove the traits that have cut us off from the sunlight of the Spirit. In the third paragraph on page 65 they write,
We went back through our lives. Nothing counted but thoroughness and honesty. When we were finished, we considered it carefully.
Now let's look at what we put on paper. From page 64 to 71 the authors provide us with a list of shortcomings we need to eliminate and a list of assets we need to accentuate. On page 64 they ask us to first of all, examine our resentments.
Resentment is the number 1 offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. From it stem all forms of spiritual disease, for we have been not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. In dealing with resentments, we set them on paper. We listed people, institutions, or principles with whom we were angry. We asked ourselves why we were angry.
In the first paragraph on page 66, the authors emphasize that our resentments keep us separated from our higher power. We must eliminate them if we are to have a spiritual awakening.
It is plain that a life which includes deep resentment leads only to futility and unhappiness. To the precise extent that we permit these, do we squander the hours that might have been worthwhile.
Then in the second paragraph on page 67, the authors instruct us to look at our part in each situation to see if we need to make amends.
Referring to our list again. Putting out of our minds the wrongs others had done, we resolutely looked for our own mistakes. Where had we been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened? Though a situation had not been entirely our fault, We tried to disregard the other person involved entirely. Where were we to blame? The inventory was ours, not the other person. When we saw our faults, we listed them. We placed them before us in black and white. We admitted our wrongs honestly and were willing to set these matters straight.
Let's look at the third sentence again. It reads, "Where had we been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened?" These behaviors are based on self-will. In addition, they are the opposites of the four absolutes of honesty, purity, unselfishness and love, as practiced by the Oxford Group. When Bill, Dr. Bob and the other Big Book authors were members of the Oxford Group, they tested everything they thought, said or did. Now they are asking us to do the same thing, test our actions. It is our selfish, self-centeredness that keeps us blocked off from our Creator and prevents us from finding the spiritual solution to alcoholism. Next, the authors ask us to look at our fears. In the first paragraph on page 68 they write,
"We reviewed our fears thoroughly. We put them on paper, even though we had no resentment in connection with them. We asked ourselves why we had them. Wasn't it because self-reliance failed us? Self-reliance was good as far as it went, but it didn't go far enough. Some of us once had great self-confidence, but it didn't fully solve the fear problem, or any other."
In the first paragraph on page 69, the authors expand further on our character defects and liabilities which we need to address. They also asked us to make a list of those we had harmed. This will become our amends list, the people to whom we need to make restitution.
We reviewed our own conduct over the years past. Where had we been selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate? Whom had we hurt? Did we unjustly arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? Where were we at fault? What should we have done instead? We got this all down on paper and looked at it. Top of page 67 states, "We asked God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience that we would cheerfully grant a sick friend. When a person offended, we said to ourselves, 'This is a sick man. God, save me from being angry. Thy will be done.'"
On page 70 on the third paragraph, they provide us with several more assets while summarizing the inventory process. We have listed and analyzed our resentments. We have begun to comprehend their futility and their fatality. We have commenced to see their terrible destructiveness. We have begun to learn tolerance, patience, and goodwill toward all men, even our enemies. Where possible, the law of cause and effect should be borne in mind. We know what we did, but we are now trying to discover the reasons why. One very difficult area which sadly many alcoholics have personal experience of, is abuse. This can take several forms, mental, physical or sexual. In such cases it is nearly always advisable to seek outside counseling before including this in your inventory. It also requires careful guidance with your sponsor. The Big Book authors tell us this on page 70. Starting in the first paragraph they write,
"If we are sorry for what we have done, and have the honest desire to let God take us to better things, we believe we will be forgiven and will have learned our lesson. If we are not sorry, and our conduct continues to harm others, we are quite sure to drink. We are not theorizing. These are the facts of our experiences."
That completes our presentation of the fourth step. If you still have doubt about the value of this step, let us take a quote of what the Big Book has to say. In the fourth paragraph on page 70 it makes it clear that if we admit our wrongs and are willing to set matters right, then God will take away our difficulties.
In this book you read again and again that faith did for us what we could not do for ourselves. We hope you are convinced now that God can remove whatever self-will has blocked you off from Him. If you have already made a decision, and an inventory of your grosser handicaps, you have made a good beginning. That being so, you have swallowed and digested some big chunks of truth about yourself.
This brings us to the end of session 4. We are now beginning to have a clear idea of why the 12 steps are vital in recovery, and how to practice these healing principles in all our affairs. Having acquired the transcript of this method of understanding the program of recovery, I put together this workshop for the Back to Basics meeting of the Ray of Hope group in Kuwait in 2002. The aim is to provide clear-cut directions on how to recover from the disease of alcoholism. It has been demonstrated time and time again that the Back to Basics method is very effective if followed and practiced to the best of our ability. Please feel free to pass on to others these documents if you think it will be of help to them. Remember the strange paradox. We have to give our sobriety to others in order to keep it for ourselves. I do hope you have found it useful and informative. I'm Doug. I'm at your service.